WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 o'clock in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Porto Novo. Hello, good evening, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Kenyan forces verbs resolves to continue demonstrations until military junta exits power despite recent casualties recorded. Ghana's President Mahama calls for collaboration among West African nations to strengthen regional stability.
Now more than ever before, we need to strengthen our ties with our neighbors to ensure that we're working together to keep our sub-region safe.
And Niger and Benin deepen military cooperation to promote regional peace. And IOM announces the interception of more than 21,000 migrants at the Mediterranean Sea in 2024. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more. This edition of Newslink begins in Guinea, where the death toll has risen in the wake of a demonstration called by the forces verbs. According to the opposition, 3 young people were shot dead on Monday, while others were injured. The organizers of the demonstration claimed that at least 100 protesters were arrested by the security forces. The Guinean forces verbs, undeterred, said it will continue to mobilize and lead demonstrations until the military leaves power and a civilian government is installed. However, across Conakry, army, police and gendarmerie tanks are still positioned at strategic locations. Abdoulaye Oumousso, a member of the forces verbs, condemned the repression of protesters by the state authorities, despite Transitional President General Mamadou Diomboye's suspension of the ban on demonstrations on December 31, 2024. In the meantime, government is yet to issue any official statement on the casualties recorded during Monday's violence. In Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama has called on the West African nations to strengthen regional safety and stability through enhanced collaboration. Ghana's newly inaugurated President John Dramani Mahama made the call during his inaugural speech, emphasizing the importance of unity in addressing shared challenges within the sub-region. The swearing-in ceremony at the Independence Square of the country was graced by several African leaders, including Nigeria's Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, Kenya's Williams Ruto, and Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traoré, underscoring the event's significance on the African continent. WADR's Accra correspondent Na Dede Tete reports.
President John Dramani Mahama in his inaugural speech underscored the critical need for stronger partnerships across West Africa, emphasizing that the region's nations are united by shared history, culture, and common goals.
We stand in solidarity and work in alliance with all our neighbors in the sub-region. Recognizing the history of our borders, we also acknowledge that on the other side of our country's borders are our family members.
The president highlighted the pressing challenges facing the modern world, including economic shifts, climate change, and potential health crises. He called for collective efforts to strengthen the region's resilience in tackling these issues.
Now more than ever before, we need to strengthen our ties with our neighbors to ensure that we're working together to keep our sub-region safe.
President Mahama also stressed the importance of improving public health systems, drawing lessons from past pandemics, and advocating for a proactive approach to prevent future health emergencies.
Let us not forget the toll that the past epidemics of viruses like Ebola, COVID, and Mpox have taken on the families and communities and medical infrastructure in several of our neighboring countries and in the sub-region. Let us also not forget how swiftly and completely the COVID pandemic brought the entire world to a screeching halt. My government will be working diligently to strengthen our public health systems while monitoring the global health situation so that when and not if the next pandemic or epidemic occurs, the loss of lives in Ghana will be minimal.
The speech served as both a rallying cry for regional unity and a roadmap for Ghana's future, with promises of economic stabilization, inclusivity, and governance reforms. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
In a context of growing security threats in West Africa, Benin has requested the military cooperation with Niger. This request comes as the two countries share a long and porous border, exposed to various threats, notably jihadist groups operating in the Sahel region, and as bilateral relations between the two countries are not in good shape. Military cooperation between these two nations could mark a strategic turning point for regional stability, while offering hope of strengthening defense capacities to counter actors. At the back of this milestone reached, Nigerian security analyst Bounty Diallo, in an interview with WADR, believes that the move will foster regional peace and cooperation.
Au départ, le Niger a dit, en tout cas manifesté sa volonté de coopérer.
Initially, Niger demonstrated its desire to cooperate with the Beninese authorities on a military level, especially by organizing joint patrols along the border in order to secure our two borders. Given the hostile attitude of President Talon, I believe that Benin did not want to take this proposal into account. But in light of the facts, and therefore taking into account the latest developments, Benin clearly realizes that this is the only option for our two countries to guarantee their security at its borders despite the French presence. Moreover, the French presence has become like a sort of magnet which attracts terrorism, and Benin has never been as threatened as since the French settled on its territory. If the French could not curb terrorism in Mali, they were not able to curb in Niger and Burkina Faso. It is not in Benin that they are going to do it. So I believe that the Beninese authorities are coming to their senses, which is to be encouraged. And so these authorities find an open door on the side of Niger, since for more than a year, Niger, in any case, has been urging Benin to abandon any hostile attitude and therefore to return to reason, so that together our armies, our defense and security forces can curb the same accusation.
Le Bénin a se départir de toute attitude hostile et donc de revenir à la raison, afin qu'ensemble, nos armées, nos forces de défense et de sécurité puissent juguler la méthanisation.
And that's Nigerian security analyst Bounty Diallo in an interview with WADR. Still staying a while longer in Niger, the military regime continues its policy of forfeiture of nationality, this time around affecting two people accused of activities likely to disrupt the peace of the country. The head of the military in power, General Abdurrahman Ichiani, signed this new decree targeting two relatives of the deposed President Mohamed Bazoum. The relatives include Maman Sani Ali Adam and Boussada Ben Ali. Details with Augustine Colley.
According to a press release from the General Secretariat of the government, Mama Sani Ali Adam, alias Silon Ali Adam, born in 1992 in Zinda, and Boussada Ben Ali, born in 1972 in Ngoti, are affected by the decision. The Nigerian authorities accuse these relatives of the former president, Mohamed Bazoum, of activities likely to disrupt public peace and security, as well as the production and dissemination of data likely to disturb public order. These measures, according to the country's authorities, are taken in application of an order of August 2024, establishing a fine for people involved in acts of terrorism or in any other offenses harming the strategic interests of the nation. This new decision is part of a broader policy of sanctions against opponents of the regime. Last November, 7 people, including 2 influential former ministers of the deposed government, Hassoumi Massoudou in Foreign Affairs and Akachi Ahada in Commerce, had already been stripped of their nationality. The latter are also the subject of prosecution before the military court for treason and conspiracy against state security, indicates the press release.
Augustine Colley with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
So in Senegal, let's turn attention to some stories coming in from the headquarters of Barthelemy Chias because he continued to contest his expulsion from the position as mayor of Dakar as well as his position as deputy of the National Assembly. During a press briefing in Dakar, the deposed mayor denounced the decision of the Constitutional Council and the Court of Appeal, which he had referred to for interpretation and judgment. Barthelemy Chias is now awaiting the final decision of the Supreme Court.
Quand vous êtes aux ordres, vous exécutez, quels que soient les ordres.
When you are with others, you carry out whatever the orders are. But I remain convinced that there are magistrates in this country who will understand what the Senegalese expect of them. Now, for the certain justice which had opted to be domesticated and tamed, I would simply like to say, the UMS, the Union of Magistrates of Senegal, you are Senegalese like everyone else. Because we cannot accept that since Senegal is Senegal, the country has suffered more or less from the same disease, that is justice. A justice system that refuses to state the law in the name of the Senegalese people. A justice that refuses to take responsibility. For the last alternation, there were more than 80 deaths, partly because of this justice, which was at the origin of almost all the situations which led to certain rather particular, not to say deadly, riots. A justice that refused to state the law, thinking on institution surrounding it with security forces and saying that the elected official has no right to enter this institution is a robbery. For those who think that Barthelemy Chias is no longer the mayor of Dakar, I repeat, they are seriously mistaken.
Le maire de Dakar, je le répète, il se trompe lourdement.
And that's the former mayor of Dakar, Barthelemy Chias. So in Senegal, nearly 17 million barrels of crude oil have been recorded since the Sangoma oil field began production. Of this, 3 million barrels have been commercialized. This announcement was made on Tuesday by the Senegalese Ministry of Petroleum and Mines. Emo Edet has more in this report.
16.9 million barrels of crude oil is the production recorded since the start of operations at the Sangoma field in June 2024. Production has exceeded the initial target of 11.7 million barrels set by the Senegalese authorities and the Australian company Woodside. A positive result in such a short space of time, according to Lamine Jan. All that remains now, says the oil expert, is to address the economic challenges of production.
The exploitation is happening today in a very complex situation of economic constraints, of social constraints. Now perhaps we need an effective mobilization policy of resources that takes into account the production costs. Because it is good that we are told that we have indeed exceeded the objectives, that the wells are active, that the state's funds will be even more provided in terms of revenue. But it would be even better if the state of Senegal made the arrangements to audit production costs more.
Last December, almost 3 million barrels were produced, according to the Ministry of Petroleum, which adds that 2.94 million were sold on the international market. According to Lamine Jan, the revenues from these barrels will be used to purchase materials for oil storage. However, the oil expert insists that the revenues must be put to good use in order to achieve the country's development.
Today, it will be necessary to limit the state which is already working on the transformation of oil on the spot, but also trying to reinvest the revenues in other sectors, namely agriculture, fish farming, but also the employment of young people, the creation of jobs, and do our best to protect our ecosystem.
According to the Minister of Petroleum and Mines, all 12 wells in the Sangoma field are operational. This will ensure a total extraction of 100,000 barrels of crude oil per day.
Emo Edit with our reports. In Mali, several dozen terrorists have been neutralized by the Malian armed forces during a large-scale attack in the north of the country. The fight occurred on the night of Monday to Tuesday when hundreds of insurgents stormed villages in Nyoro du Sahel region near the Mauritanian border. According to a statement from the General Staff of the Malian Armed Forces, FAMA, they attacked the communities with the help of accomplices and targeted critical infrastructures. Let's turn attention to Nigeria at the moment because a notorious bandit leader, Dongo Guide, has imposed 100 million naira equivalent to $65,000 levy on 23 communities in Zamfara state. The information has sent shockwaves across the northwest region, further exacerbating the fragile security situation. Sources confirm that the residents of the affected villages in Zamfara are scrambling to meet the demands amid fears of violent reprisal. WADR's Usma Uma tells us more.
According to sources, the communities were given specific amounts to pay, with some facing higher levies. Kuchinkalgo was ordered to pay 20 million naira, while Sungawa and Rekiabu each faced demands of 15 million naira. Other heavily taxed villages include Kwarem Maisaje and Magazawa, both charged 10 million naira, and Gijinzama with 8.5 million naira. Smaller levies were imposed on other communities with amounts ranging from 2.5 million to 7 million naira. The targeted villages include Giwa, Oyam Magaji, Bare-Bari, Ungwar Rogo, and Machia, among others. Residents fear that failure to meet these demands could lead to violent attacks. Zamfara State Commissioner of Police Mohammed Dalijang confirmed the development, assuring residents that security forces are actively addressing the situation. Darlington Umoru, a security analyst, has been speaking on this development.
It's shocking at the level they have gone to now, and that they are asking a ransom from villagers in villages. 25 villages, put together in Zamfara State. It's no mean measure. But good enough, the Nigerian security agents and the military are up to the task. Attention, they are on the joint board now. Attention is focused on these areas to see how these persons in these villages can be protected.
The imposition of levies by armed groups has become a recurring challenge in Zamfara, a state grappling with widespread insecurity. Local communities have repeatedly faced extortion by bandits who demand payment to avoid attacks or abductions. Residents are calling for more decisive action from the government to combat the growing threat and restore peace to the region. Zamfara has been one of the states hardest hit by banditry in Nigeria's northwest, with the rural communities bearing the brunt of violence, kidnappings, and extortion. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting live on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Guinean forces verve resolves to continue demonstrations until military junta exits power despite recent casualties recorded. Ghana's President Mahama calls for collaboration among West African nations to strengthen regional stability. Niger and Benin deepens bilateral or military cooperation to promote regional peace. And ahead in the news, IOM announces the interception of more than 21,000 migrants at the Mediterranean Sea in 2024. We also have the guest interview and the sports news, all in this package. Stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Crossing over to Liberia, President Boakai has signed the 2025 fiscal year national budget into law. The president further expressed satisfaction with the timely completion of the budget process, which underscores the urgent need for its effective implementation. According to him, the time for action is here, as the budget is not just a number of papers. It represents our commitment to addressing the need of citizens and achieving national development. The National Legislature concluded its deliberations on the budget on December 20, 2024, when the Senate occurred with the House of Representatives proposed financial instrument. Now signed into law, the budget serves as the legal and operational framework for the government of Liberia's program and activities in the coming year. And in other news, at least 21,700 migrants were intercepted on the Mediterranean Sea while attempting to reach Europe in 2024. In a statement on Tuesday, the International Organization for Migration (IOM) said the migration comprising 1,500 women and 700 children were intercepted by the Libyan Coast Guard. The IOM reported that the vast majority of them ended up in prison. This figure exceeded the annual figure for 2023, which was 17,000 would be illegal migrants intercepted, but remained lower than that of the 2022 figure of 24,600 people intercepted. It is, however, worth noting that approximately 2,200 dead and another 1,700 are feared missing in 2024 till date. According to the UN Migration Agency, those attempting to cross the Mediterranean embarked on a perilous journey using makeshift wooden and metal boats unsuitable for such a journey. Since 2017, the year of the signing of the agreement between Tripoli and Rome, supported by Brussels, the AU has entrusted the Libyan authorities with the responsibility of coordinating rescues off their coasts.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest is Dr. Amache Kumase, a Ghanaian political analyst who joins us from Accra on the National Reset Program announced by Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. President Mahama, during his inauguration, reiterated his desire to get Ghana back on track economically while improving other sectors such as health, education, social security, and agriculture, among others. Ending corruption is also the top of his agenda. However, the definition, context, and application of the word reset as President Mahama's administration, is very well being debated. Well, will it mean undergoing policies and reforms of the last 8 years? Dr. Kumase weighs in on this particular one.
Those of us who are here in Ghana followed his campaign speeches and promises in them. So the idea of resetting Ghana, some of us weighed into the discussions. And I remember interpreting it as restructuring Ghana so that Ghana could work as a country. Restructuring Ghana. My understanding of President Mahama's reset is first and foremost to fight political corruption and to strengthen the institutions of state so that work, that he will allow the laws of the land to also become the guiding principle over everybody's actions and inactions, irrespective of whether you work in his government or not. So generally speaking, it is restructure Ghana's institutions to make them work.
Now, should we go with reset? Does it mean undoing some of the reforms or policies implemented by the immediate past government of President Akufo-Addo, at least in the last 8 years?
This issue of the need to continue with policies that are good, that are desirable, has also come to the fore in Ghanaian politics. And so during the campaign, it became one of the issues that came up. For example, President Mahama was accused that he will not continue with the free SHS policy openly. The NPP used it in the political campaign. President Mahama was forced to openly declare that the policy has come to stay. He will not scrap it. But that aside, Ghanaians have also frowned upon this whole practice or the habit of politicians, when they come into office, of not continuing with policies that the previous government had started, which they think were good, particular projects that were ongoing, which become abandoned. And so this issue, I think Ghana has crossed it. So the expression reset can never be interpreted to mean undoing what the previous government had done, which appeared to be good and positive. Generally, several sectors of the system are not working. The last government consciously politicized several of them. For example, the judiciary. The Constitution does not have an upper limit of people that should be appointed to the Supreme Court. So obviously that area will be reset. Over the years, both political parties have not been properly recruiting people into the army and into the police. They simply send their supporters in there. So many of them are not properly individuals who should be there. They don't go through proper training. That area will see a resetting. You see, and also the ministries, the people who implement, the policies. It has got to do with the issue of, fighting corruption.
What will it cost the president, the presidency, and the Ghanaian society for this restructuring to really take place or happen? Let's look at the consequences, but of course, the very desired result, which would be the benefits.
Generally speaking, given the approach he's taking, if anything at all, I see minimal cost that might come in terms of time and then basic resources, financial resources that will go in. But I anticipate benefits. Benefits in the sense that, one, with the economy, he's spoken about such a stakeholder consultation, education, he's spoken about that. They are all strategic positions he has taken. He wants to move along with the whole society so that the economic models that will come out of those consultations, broad consultations, will be owned by society generally. Of course, the implementation will have to be supervised exclusively by the president. If anything at all, it's implementation where he'll be held accountable. So, for cost, there will definitely be cost, but I don't think it will be so high a cost. If he goes about the implementation properly, he will have societal support, to implement them to achieve the desired outcome. So all things being equal, you expect that he will succeed in the education sector. You expect that he will succeed with the economic sector, given the fact that he has got only 4 years.
And that's a political science lecturer with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi of Ghana, Dr. Amache Boateng. Let's join Sankuli Janko with details in the world of sports.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, has officially appointed Malian tactician Eric Schell as the new head coach of the national football team, the Super Eagles, according to local media reports in Nigeria. His appointment was ratified by the NFF Executive Committee on Tuesday, following a meeting in Abuja. According to an official statement issued by the NFF, the Executive Committee of the Nigeria Football Federation endorsed the recommendation of its Technical and Development Subcommittee for the appointment of Mr. Eric Schell as the head coach of Super Eagles. His appointment is with immediate effect and has the responsibility of guiding the Super Eagles to earn a ticket to the 2026 FIFA World Cup Finals, with the next round of matches taking place in March, the official statement further stated. The 47-year-old Schell led Mali at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations finals in Cote d'Ivoire, where they had an impressive performance before losing to the host nation in the semi-finals in extra time. And the Confederation of African Football, CAF, on Tuesday has announced that the prize money for the winner of the CAF African Nations Championship CHAN, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. The prize money for the winner has been increased by 75%, and the winner will now receive $3.5 million. The total prize money of the CHAN, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda 2024 has also been increased to $10.4 million, which is an increase of 32% according to CAF. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting live on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Big thank you to you for listening, and many thanks to Maudo Juf and Umu Daniel for the technical assistance. Do interact with us on all of our social media platforms: X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Christopher Ticho. Enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio.